Hello everyone, I'm Paleo Parks and welcome to another episode of Primeval Sanctuary, and today I'll be constructing two enclosures, each housing one of the four dinosaurs from the Cretaceous Predator Pack, those dinosaurs being the Utahraptor and the Gigantoraptor. I also made these little guest hubs that are lined up with the path. Now, let's get to the speed build. Hello everyone, welcome to the building segment of this video, and like I said in the intro, we will be constructing two separate habitats for two different dinosaurs, being the Utahraptor and the Giganteraptor. Both are of course feathered species from the Cretaceous Predator Pack, and to be honest, these two dinosaurs here are probably my favorite DLC dinosaurs in the entire game. Heck, they might be my favorite dinosaurs in the game, period. Alright, they're just that good. Alright, their animations are nice. The Gigantoraptor is absolutely brutal. It's very underrated. The Utahraptor, it's pretty self-explanatory as to why I like it so much. I mean, it's just an absolute savage. Alright, when it comes to eating guests, which is, you know, a bit psychopathic, but, you know, a lot of people can agree with me here. Utahraptor is the GOAT. Alright, it's the GOAT at eating goats too. Right, it's a goat-eating champion. It's like whatever. I don't even know what to say about the creatures. All right, but anyway, let's just start off with the Utahraptor enclosure. Basically, the Utahraptor is obviously found in the U.S. state of Utah, and when I think of Utah, I often think of this very deserty sort of environment, and that's what I tried to replicate in today's enclosure. This sort of deserty, dry vibe, and I think I emulated that quite well. I have built desert biomes before, but to be honest, they're not exactly my favorite biomes to build, right? I feel like it's just, you know, it's very hard to get the perfect desert, because every time I try to build one, it still looks like a desert, but it really isn't a realistic desert. Right, it's hard to explain, but hopefully you'll get what I'm saying once you finally see the enclosure, right? Like, it's sandy, right? This enclosure right now is pretty sandy, right? There's some rocks, but once I start adding the plants, it no longer becomes a desert, okay? Once again, you'll see what I'm saying once I finally finish the enclosure, but yeah, right now I'm just placing the rocks. Normally I place the plants first, but I found that placing the rocks makes placing the plants a bit more automatic, right? Because I like to place plants around and in between the rocks, right? Like, I kind of like to place those fluffy tiger bushes in between some of the rocks. It gives us this very cool overgrown effect, and I really love that. I also smushed in a bit of timber trees, and here you can see what I'm sort of saying. All right, deserts often don't have plants that are taller than you. Alright, deserts have very short plants. Sometimes there's no plants at all. Right, and here there's very, very, very high plants when it comes to their height. Alright, and it just doesn't give off the exact vibe that I'm looking for. But once again, if all the plants in this enclosure were short, then the enclosure would be very, very, very boring. Alright, it's just whatever. As soon as I started placing the tiger stuff, it just all got a bit taller, right? Because tiger's quite high. Anyway, let's move on to this guest hub right here. I am well overdue, honestly, when it comes to placing amenities in this part, because the last time I believe I placed amenities was during the first episode, during the very beginning of this park. Everywhere else, I just didn't bother placing amenities, because I'll be honest here, I'm really bad at building guest sections, to be honest, right? Like, my biggest strength is building enclosures, right? I'm really, really proud of my enclosures, especially during the later days of this building series. But what I'm really not proud of are my guest sections. Like, they are absolutely terrible. Alright, a few episodes ago, in episode 4, I believe, you know, that guest section was very underwhelming, shall I say. It was very ugly, but yeah, this guest section here, I feel like is a nice addition. Alright, it's an upgrade, certainly. I love these little gardens that I placed in the middle of it, right? It's a nice way to fill some space, and yeah, basically what's going on in this garden is the exact same thing that's going on in the garden right next to it, just so, alpine trees in the back, smaller alpine trees in the front, fluffy tiger bushes in the middle. There's nothing much to say about them other than they are cool to look at whilst you're eating some dino burgers, some dino steaks. Well, I don't know why they'd be serving dino steaks at a dino theme park. That's a bit, unethical, but whatever. You gotta make money somehow. Yeah, whenever I get lazy, when it comes to bordering path with, what are they called, planters, I just, place fences around the path. It's just a nice and easy way to fill some space, and to be honest, it really doesn't look that bad. It's not that much of a letdown, although I do still believe that placing planters are nicer and it's worth the effort. Fences are a nice alternative if you're in a bit of a rush. Now, we are working on the Gigantoraptor enclosure. Finally, now, the Gigantoraptors are absolutely brutal. Alright, I love these guys. I adore these guys. Okay, have you seen them step on the heads of their enemies? It's just absolutely brutal, and I absolutely love it. Alright, and right now, we're just working on these viewing platforms that we will be viewing the Gigantoraptors from, because all my enclosures that don't feature viewing galleries are much lower to the ground, just so you can get a better view of them. And of course, just as it's not a good enclosure if you can't look into the enclosure while eating a burger and sitting down, right? It's just cooler if you, whatever, I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. But yeah, like I said earlier, I am lowering the terrain a bit, and I'm using some of the lagoon wall. I don't know if you see it, but I'm using a bit of the lagoon wall as this fencing, and I think it gives us this pretty cool effect here. And yeah, I'm placing this little river here because I feel like this bifurcation in this river looks cool, and I always like placing forks in my rivers. And this enclosure, the environment is much more damp than the one right next to it, than the ones right next to it. I just realized both the enclosures surrounding this enclosure, this Gigantoraptor enclosure, are both desert enclosures. Alright, so it's much wetter than both of them, but not as wet as the lagoon right next to it, of course. But yeah, right, like I aimed for this sort of redwood feel. Redwoods honestly would have had a bit more grass to them, but I feel like the vibe that the Gigantoraptor gives off would fit the dirt texture paint a bit more, right? And once again, placing a bit of the rocks because, enclosures are just not complete without Dwayne Johnson. They're just, cool guys. But yeah, I also placed a bunch of poop and some Gallimimus logs around in the enclosure. And yeah, once again, doing the overgrown sort of effect with the taiga trees inside of the rocks because I think it looks cool. And I also placed a little goat feeder there because I absolutely love seeing the Gigantoraptor step on the goats. I'm just saying it again and again and again. It's just cool. Alright, these guys are cool. Anyway, that's enough of me. Soon enough, we're gonna go to some cinematic shots and the outro. I absolutely adore these two enclosures that I've constructed here, and I firmly believe that the dinosaurs I put in these enclosures perfectly fit the vibe that the enclosures biomes give off. I also like the amenity areas I constructed along the path, and to be honest, I am well overdue when it comes to the amenities because the last time I actually placed some in the park was during the first episode. I was also quite worried about the luxury path being too bland, but I think the planter barrier and the enclosure itself distracts us enough from the blank path. And as always, I didn't bother lining the rest of the path with borders during the time I recorded this, so that's a job future me will do off screen. Anyway, if you enjoyed the speed build, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't be too skittish to leave your own ideas for what's to come in future episodes. Have a great day, and see you next time.